The stadium on Calith Prime shook with cheers as the final match ended. Creatures from dozens of worlds stood in the stands, their eyes and voices focused on the arena below. The great contest was over, and to everyone's surprise, a human had won. Commander Elias Marr stood in the center of the sand-filled field, chest rising and falling with steady breaths. He was not the tallest nor the strongest. His body still showed cuts and bruises from the battles of the past week. Yet he had endured. He had faced warriors bred for combat, hunters with razor claws and machines built for endurance. Where others had fallen, Elias had adapted. He learned, he pushed, and he refused to quit. To the Galactic Coalition, humans were a young race, still new to the stars, still fragile compared to the older civilizations. Many had come to watch him fail. Instead, they had seen him win. A great voice echoed through the air. Elias Marr of Earth, you have triumphed in the great contest. As victor, you may choose your prize. You may take treasures of gold and crystal, weapons forged with ancient science, or even political favor among the council. What is your desire? Elias looked at the displays. Treasures glowed under stasis fields. Weapons hummed with quiet power. Council envoys waited with polite, practiced smiles. But his gaze did not linger on them. It moved instead to the far edge of the platform where a group of silent figures stood apart. They were the ignored prizes, beings who had no worth in the eyes of most spectators. Exiles, slaves, or those who had lost the favor of their own kind. Few winners ever chose them. They were seen as burdens, not rewards. Among them stood a woman unlike the others. She was tall and slender, her skin faintly silver under the stadium lights, her eyes calm but distant. She did not look at the cheering crowd. She did not even seem to care that her fate would soon be decided. She stood apart, quiet and alone, as though the noise of the galaxy no longer touched her. Elias had noticed her before. During the early rounds of the contest, she had been there watching silently. When chaos erupted in the stands during one of the trials, he had seen her move her hand almost too small to notice, and the falling debris had shifted away from the injured. No one else had seen it, or if they did, they ignored it. But Elias remembered. He stepped forward, his voice clear. I choose her. The stadium grew quiet. For a heartbeat, there was silence. Then a wave of whispers spread through the crowd. The envoys frowned. The announcer hesitated, unsure he had heard correctly. You choose the exile? The great voice asked, almost disbelieving. Not wealth? Not power? Not honor from the council? I choose her, Elias repeated firmly, pointing toward the silver-skinned woman. Gasps rippled through the stands. Some laughed, others jeered. Many shook their heads. To them, Elias's choice was foolish. Why would a victor throw away his reward for someone unwanted? Some believed he acted from pity. Others thought he was ignorant. A few even suspected madness. But Elias knew exactly what he was doing. The woman was brought before him. Chains of faint light shimmered around her wrists, a symbol of her exile. She looked at him with cool, questioning eyes. For a moment, neither spoke. The crowd grew restless, eager to see what would happen. Elias extended his hand. My name is Elias Marr. You don't know me, but I chose you for a reason. The woman studied him carefully. At last she spoke, her voice low but steady. I am Soraya. There was no warmth in her tone, only calm acceptance. She did not thank him. She did not bow. Instead, she met his eyes as if testing him, waiting to see if his choice was a game. Elias did not look away. Then Soraya, you're free. Walk with me. The chains dissolved at his words and the crowd erupted again. Some shouted angrily, others laughed in mockery, and a few remained silent, their eyes sharp with suspicion. Elias ignored them all. He walked from the arena, and Soraya followed, her steps graceful but cautious. As they left the stadium behind, the noise of the crowd faded. Stars glittered above the alien city. Elias felt the ache in his body from the contest, but his mind was clear. He had not chosen Soraya out of pity. He had seen the way she moved, the way her presence seemed to shift the world around her. There was more to her than the coalition admitted, and he intended to find out what. Soraya walked beside him, silent as the night. At last she asked, Why? Why did you choose me? Elias glanced at her. Because you're not what they think you are. Her eyes flickered with something he could not yet read. Surprise, doubt, perhaps even a hint of hope quickly hidden. She said nothing more, but Elias felt her watching him closely. For the first time since the contest ended, Elias smiled faintly. The game was only beginning, and his choice had already changed everything. The city of Calith Prime glittered with lights as night spread across the horizon. Elias and Soraya walked through narrow streets lined with strange towers, the air filled with voices from many alien tongues. Behind them, the stadium still roared with noise, but ahead lay quiet paths and shadowed alleys. Elias moved with a soldier's stride, his mind sharp even after the long contest. Soraya walked beside him, her steps calm, though her silver eyes scanned the city like someone always expecting danger. Neither spoke for a long time. At last, Soraya broke the silence. "You made a strange choice," she said, her voice steady but curious. "Why would a human, newly risen in the eyes of the galaxy, waste his prize on me?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because you're not what they think you are. I saw it during the contest. You shifted Falling Stone with a flick of your hand. You hit it, but I noticed." Her eyes narrowed, a spark of caution flashing across her face. "You noticed too much. Most would look away." "I don't look away," Elias said simply. "If you want to tell me what that was, I'll listen. If you don't, I'll wait until you trust me." They walked on in silence again, but Soraya glanced at him more than once, as though measuring his words. By morning, news had spread. Every display screen, every communication channel carried the story. The human chose the exile. Some mocked him. Some called it weakness. A few whispered it was cleverness, though they did not say why. In the council chamber, alien leaders debated. A human victory was already unexpected, but his choice of Soraya made it worse. They feared what secret she carried. Orders were sent quietly into the night. Watch the human, follow the exile, and if they became dangerous, remove them. Elias and Soraya found a quiet inn on the edge of the city. The building was small, shaped of stone and lightwood, run by an old creature with 6 eyes who cared little for politics. Inside, they shared a simple meal. Elias ate with the focus of a soldier, while Soraya sat across from him, barely touching her food. Finally, she spoke again. "My people are called the Lyran. Long ago, we were guardians of knowledge. We learned to shape energy, not with machines, but with our own will. We could heal, protect, and guide. But the Coalition feared us. They called us dangerous. They scattered us, bound us, silenced us. I am one of the few who remain." Her voice grew quieter. "To them, I am an exile. To myself, I am nothing." Elias leaned forward. His eyes were steady, his tone calm. "You are not nothing. If they fear you, it means you hold power. If they exiled you, it means they could not control you. That tells me you are more important than any treasure they offered me." For the first time, Soraya's calm mask cracked. Her lips pressed together and her eyes softened. "You speak as though I still matter." "You do," Elias said firmly. "And together we'll prove it." Their quiet talk was broken by a sudden sound outside, footsteps quick and heavy. Elias rose at once, his instincts sharp. He opened the door just enough to see shadows moving in the street. Figures cloaked in dark armor advanced toward the inn, their weapons glowing faintly. "They've come sooner than I thought," Elias muttered. He turned to Soraya. "Stay behind me." But Soraya stepped forward, her hand rising. The air shimmered faintly around her fingers. "I will not hide this time." The attackers burst through the doorway, blades of light flashing. Elias moved fast, grabbing a chair and slamming it into the first. His training guided him, every move sharp and controlled. Another lunged, but Soraya's eyes glowed softly. Energy rippled from her hand, bending the air. The attacker's blade missed Elias by inches, thrown off course as though by an invisible wind. Together they fought, Elias with human determination and skill, Soraya with her hidden gifts. Within minutes, the armored figures lay on the floor, stunned and defeated. None were dead, but all were powerless. Elias wiped sweat from his brow. "That answers the question. The Coalition fears you enough to send hunters." Soraya's hands trembled slightly as she lowered them. "You saw. Now you know the truth." "I already knew," Elias said, his voice steady. "Now I've seen it with my own eyes, and it only proves I was right to choose you." Later, as they left the ruined inn behind, Soraya walked in silence. But her steps were different now. Not heavy with exile, but lighter, as though a burden had shifted. Elias walked beside her, watchful, already planning their next move. He knew the Coalition would not stop. More hunters would come, more dangers waited. But he also knew something greater. Humanity had gained a friend the galaxy had ignored, a woman with gifts powerful enough to change everything. Soraya glanced at him once more. This time her voice held a trace of warmth. You are strange, Elias Marr. You see worth where others see nothing. Elias smiled faintly. That's humanity's way. We don't always see what's in front of us. But when we do, we never let go. And so their path began, not as victor and prize, but as allies walking together toward a future the galaxy could not yet imagine. The next days passed like a storm. Word spread across the stars that Elias Marr, the human victor of the great contest, had chosen the alien exile Soraya. Some races mocked him. Others whispered with unease. The coalition leaders grew restless, sending spies and hunters to watch every step. Elias and Soraya could feel eyes on them wherever they went. Yet in those days, Elias learned more about Soraya. She spoke of her people, the Lyran, once respected as keepers of balance. They had been trusted to protect ancient knowledge, to guide younger civilizations with wisdom, but their power to shape energy had frightened the Council. Fearing what they could not control, the coalition broke the Lyran apart, scattering them into silence. Soraya had lived with that silence for years. Alone, cut off from her kind, she had hidden her gifts, waiting for the day she might use them again. And now with Elias, she felt the first spark of purpose return. One evening, the two sat on the roof of an abandoned tower, stars burning bright above. Elias leaned back, his hands behind his head, while Soraya sat with her knees drawn close, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the starlight. You know they won't stop, Elias said softly. The coalition fears both of us now. Me because I won when I wasn't supposed to. You because of what you are. Soraya nodded slowly. Then why stay with me? You could still walk away. They might leave you alone. Elias turned his head toward her, a small smile tugging at his lips. That's not who I am. I don't walk away. I chose you, Soraya, not for pity, not for gain, but because I saw who you truly are. And I don't regret it. For a moment, her calm mask cracked again. She looked at him, her expression softening. No one has spoken to me like that in years. Then it's about time someone did, Elias replied. The next morning, danger struck. Coalition ships descended over the city, their engines roaring. Loudspeakers echoed with commands. Surrender the exile. Surrender the human. They are a threat to stability. Panic swept through the streets. Citizens fled as soldiers in black armor poured into the avenues. Elias and Soraya stood at the edge of the city, watching the invasion unfold. They're not here to arrest us, Elias said grimly. They're here to make an example. Soraya's hands tightened into fists. Her voice was low but strong. Then they will see the truth. Together they fled into the desert outside the city, coalition soldiers in pursuit. Sandstorms rose around them, the sky turning gold and red as the sun burned low. At last Elias and Soraya reached the ruins of an ancient Lyran temple, half buried in stone and sand. This place, Soraya whispered, her voice trembling. It belonged to my people. The coalition tried to erase it, but the heart remains. Inside, glowing crystals pulsed with faint light. Strange patterns lined the walls, humming as Soraya approached. The energy of the place seemed to answer her, filling the air with warmth. Elias watched as she placed her hands on the crystal at the center of the chamber. The light surged, flowing into her, surrounding her in a soft glow. This is who I am, Soraya said, her voice stronger than ever. Not an exile. Not a burden, a guardian. The coalition soldiers stormed into the ruins, weapons raised. Elias stood at her side, blaster ready. Then let's show them. The battle was fierce. Soldiers fired, beams of light cutting through the air. Elias moved with sharp precision, using cover, striking fast. He fought not as a brute, but as a strategist, every move calculated. Soraya stood tall beside him, her hands glowing with power. Energy shields shimmered to life, blocking fire. With a sweep of her arm, she sent shockwaves that disarmed attackers without ending their lives. The ruins themselves seemed to awaken, crystals glowing brighter as if answering her call. The coalition forces, confident at first, began to falter. They had never faced power like this, human courage joined with Lyran strength. At last, the leader of the soldiers stepped forward, his voice booming through his helmet. You cannot stand against the coalition. Humanity is weak. The Lyran are broken. Surrender. Elias stepped forward, blaster aimed steady. You're wrong. Humanity is not weak. We see strength where others are blind. We build bonds you cannot break. That's why I chose her. That's why we will never surrender. Soraya lifted her hands, energy swirling like a storm. With a final surge, she unleashed a wave of light that rippled across the ruins, disabling every weapon, freezing every soldier in place. No one was harmed, but all stood powerless, staring in awe at the force they had underestimated. Silence fell. The soldiers retreated, their leader leaving in shame. Across the galaxy, word spread again, not of pity or foolishness, but of victory. The human who had chosen the ignored exile, the exile who revealed herself as a guardian once more. Elias and Soraya stood side by side in the glowing ruins. She turned to him, her eyes shining with quiet emotion. You believed in me when no one else did. You saw me. And you proved me right, Elias said with a faint grin. Together we just showed them what they tried to bury. For the first time in many years, Soraya smiled, not out of duty but from her heart. It was a small smile, but it held hope. Hope for herself, for her people, and perhaps for humanity too. From that day on, the galaxy remembered. Not the treasures, not the weapons, not the politics. They remembered the moment a human victor chose the alien everyone ignored, not out of pity but because he saw her true worth. And in that choice, humanity revealed its greatest gift, the power to see value where others see none, and to stand unshaken beside those the galaxy had cast aside. The story of Elias, Mar, and Soraya spread across the stars, not as a tale of conquest but as a promise that together, human courage and alien wisdom could change the future.